One day at a time, brother. One day at a time. I mean, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I keep telling myself that, it's first of all, it's an honor and privilege to be able to do it because President Moorhead, Greg McGarity had to allow me to coach in this game, and I wanted it that way. It was the right thing to do. Is it difficult? Yes, it's very difficult. Is it time-consuming? Yeah. Is it stressful? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do, and I wanted to do the right thing by both employers. I wanted to do the right thing by these kids who I sat in their homes and convinced them to come to Alabama, a lot of them, and to me, it was the right thing to do for them. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I had to face Denzel Duvall, Reggie Ragland, Reuben Foster, Dylan Lee. I mean, I got a special relationship with these guys. And to not coach in this game, I couldn't even imagine. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Were you worried about what Nick would say? Because you're essentially recruiting the same guys right now. Sure. Is it just because you have that much respect for each other that this can work?
I was worried about what he would think about me not coaching or recruiting the kids.
No, about that maybe he'd say, I don't want you to do it because you're recruiting guys.
I had kind of been through this with Coach involving McElwain, so he wants what's best for the team. He wants to win a national championship. If that's coaching this game, then why change something that's been working? So, I mean, we had a conversation about it. We understand the strains and the stresses, and sure, it's tough at times to know that we're recruiting the same kids, but we're also both professionals. He's worked in the NFL, I've worked in, that's part of it. We understand that. It's not a negative, it's not a go bash each other. Ultimately, those kids have to decide what's best for them, and to each his own. And there's good and bad about both places. So that never came into it for me, nor did it for him. He was very professional about it and handled it the right way.
How did the players react when you said that you were going to kind of finish out the year with them?
I think they were great with it. I think each one of them's come to me, and as a matter of fact, some of the mature ones have said, Coach, I appreciate you doing this. I know you didn't have to do this. I know you're doing this for us. So that kind of thing came from them. That, hey, these guys want to win this game. They want to win the next game. They're not concerned or worried about who we're recruiting at Georgia. The guys on this team, they're not. They want to win, and that's what I want to do.
When you decided to go into coaching at Valdosta, you had chances or opportunities to go into business. Is that correct, or thoughts about it?
Yeah, I had a lot of calls when I got released from the Colts about going into business. Several job offers that obviously made a little bit more money than I was going to make at Valdosta State, but that just I was a little torn because I didn't go into education at the University of Georgia so that I could be a high school coach. I went into finance thinking that I probably wouldn't be a high school coach, and I think my dad and mom wanted me to do everything I could to not be a coach, but it was just in my DNA. It's my passion, my joy. I don't think I've worked a day in my life because I enjoy doing what I do, and I've been very fortunate to work for some really, really good people and get where I am today because of who I work for.
What do you think you would have done if you didn't coach?
Man, that's a tough one there. I would think some kind of finance, or I'd probably be calling on you for money, Joe.
Would you be miserable?
Would you give me any?
Sports writers? Yeah, sure.
Would you be miserable?
I don't know that. I can't answer that, but I'm certainly happy doing what I'm doing, and that's what the focus is.
What did you make at Valdosta?
$10,000.
Oh, wow.
Like year 2000, Chris Hatcher hired me for $10,000, gave me a dealer car and a place to stay, and from there we went. I was in charge of academics, in charge of salary cap as far as the players because they get to chop scholarships up. So I got to use some of my finance stuff on that. That was fun. But
what kind of car was it?
Altima.
So your car was worth more than you were at that point.
I don't know. I didn't think about that. He gave it to me, so I didn't know what it cost. I just knew he bumped me up to 15, which I thought was awesome. Before the end of the year.
It's still kind of surreal. You got your dream job as your first head coaching job?
Yeah, I think at times you wake up in the morning and you almost forget and you pinch yourself. But the focus for me is on obviously winning this game and doing the right thing to finish it out the right way. Because there's nothing more that's going to help me at the University of Georgia than winning a national title at the University of Alabama. And that's my focus and goal right now, is to do the best job I can every day on the task that's right in front of me. And if you get past that now, you get lost.
You had people coming after you for years. After each carousel got done, did you ever say to yourself, well, maybe I should have gone this time, or maybe I should?
Yeah, I think you always look back. I've tried to always say every decision you make, once you make it, you do nothing but go forward. You don't ever look backwards. But you can't say in an off season that you don't look back and say, did I miss that one, or did I mess up? You try to analyze everything from every call you make on defense to every recruit you didn't get. You self-analyze and say, what could have I done different? I did the same thing each year, but unfortunately it's paid off.
I was gonna say, when you get that call from the 706 area code, you're like, okay, I was right.
Yeah, at least you hope. We hope.
Kirby, you talk to anyone who's been through this before about balancing it? You obviously had Tom Herman last year.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen's done it.
You know, the two people that I spoke to briefly would be Jim McElwain, ironically enough, and Dan Lanning, who I respect. I mean, I'm sorry, not Dan Lanning, Dan Quinn, who did this for the Falcons. He kind of had the Seahawks deal going on, and I talked about it in there. And from the Seahawks deal, he was going to Atlanta. So he talked about some of the time constraints, using people to help you call people back and just get messages back and return calls, and managing two jobs is tough. So to hear how they did it, it's helped some, but ultimately you got to do it your own way, and you got to get the job done, and that's what the challenge has been, trying to focus on one task, one day.
What's the breakdown? I mean,
Well, ultimately when you're recruiting for Georgia, that's what you're doing. So there was a period in there where I was on the road live for a week that Alabama was recruiting for Alabama. They weren't getting ready for Michigan State. So I was recruiting for Georgia. And then when you come off the road and you get back to Tuscaloosa, the focus is on Michigan State and preparing for that game. And that's what we've done since then. Now, you can't obviously prepare for a game 24 hours a day. So when I'm not doing that, I'm recruiting or trying to organize the staff for the University of Georgia.
So what kind of hours are you keeping?
It depends. I mean, obviously, over the 2 days we were off for Christmas, got a little more sleep than normal, but you know, mostly 6 hours sleep if I can handle that. That's what I do in season, so try to function off that.
When you're recruiting for Georgia so far, how often have you been talking to a kid who you maybe previously been trying to get to come to Alabama?
It's happened, but not as much as you'd think, I believe, because there's overlap there, guys, but it's not as much as you think. I'm going to say 4 to 5 kids that we're both kids' top schools. And you get, oh, he's thinking about them, or because you went to Georgia, this kid's a little more serious now, so he bumped him up. But at the end of the day, it's not as much overlap as people think. And those kids will make educated decisions. They'll make the best decisions for them, and both programs will go on regardless of where these kids go.
How similar are the messages? Because I'm sure you're recruiting guys that Jim's recruiting at Florida, or Jimbo's recruiting at Florida State, where you guys are all essentially from the same tree, run your programs very similarly. How do you differentiate?
Well, I think that's based on where you are. I think that's what offense you run, what defense you run, how you run your program. I don't think it's as similar as you think. The overall process may be the same, but each one is independent in and of itself based on their coordinators, based on where they are, based on the facilities and all those different things.
Kirby,
go ahead.
After the way last year ended, the yards and points you gave up against Auburn and then Ohio State, did you feel like you personally had something to prove this year?
I would say we did as a unit. I don't ever personalize things like that. I don't think it's good when you do that because you can go up and down like a yo-yo. So, I mean, we had, as a unit, as a staff, as a team, had something to prove. We didn't finish well. Had 2 poor games, especially defensively, numbers-wise. So, obviously, as a unit, we used that as motivation for this year. And we changed some things around personnel-wise to try to get better. And we've been able to do that thus far. But the test is still in front of us.
You mentioned the conversation you had with Georgia about whether to come back and coach and within the games. Was that a difficult or easy conversation with Georgia? Like, hey, look, we understand that, but we need you here. How did that?
No, they were very understanding. They said, "What do you want to do?"
Okay.
Which is the right way to approach it, and they were very understanding about the whole process, and they know that it's good publicity for the University of Georgia as well to have somebody in the Final Four representing their school.
Reggie,